Welcome, guys. I'm Vulture Culture, and that was Seashore War by the incomparable David Wise. And all the synth sounds you just heard came from Gforce Software's MAP, their brand new plugin that just came out this past Tuesday. And I wanted to go on record right now that MAP is my favorite Gforce plugin of all time. I think the interface is brilliant, and I think it sounds better than anything they've come up with thus far. So welcome, guys. The way tonight's live stream is going to go is we'll start off by dissecting my 20 factory patches I contributed to the library of Gforce software. So there's over 300 presets in MAP here, and I made 20 of them. So as a way to sort of pick apart what's so special and interesting about this incredible plugin, I thought that would be a fun way to go about it. And then we'll do some viewer requests. We can make some patches, whatever the chat wants. And more than anything, I want to answer any questions you guys have. So feel free to ask as many questions, because I think this plugin's a little mysterious for some people. They look at it and they're like, okay, you know, there's a lot going on, but at the same time, it kind of feels familiar. So it's like, okay, we got oscillators, filters, envelopes, like what's so special about it? But this is definitely of all the Gforce plugins, in my opinion. And I hope no one sleeps on it, because it is awesome. And I should say too, they have an intro sale right now, 50% off. It's like 49 pounds. I think that's like 65 USD, something like that. So the link's in the description. If you want to get this plugin, I think Gforce Softwares they're an incredible company to support. So really love what they're doing. And let's get into it. So the first, we can open up this browser here, and like I said, we've got, you know, over 300 patches here, and these little alpha patches here are all like what they consider to be the favorites, or the ones you should check out first. It does sound very analog aquatic. I mean, that's what they do best, is nailing analog, even more than any other company. I believe Gforce nails that vintage analog vibe. So if I go over here, I can select author and then type in Vulture. Okay. And then we have all of the presets I made. So we're going to just run through these real quick. The first one, Alaska, is a recreation of the UK album sound, which was done with a CS80. So real quick, I'm going to select that, and you guys can kind of see what's going on here, but it's something like this. Welcome, everybody. So then if we go to the next one, Serpentarius here, this is a very cool, and let me just make sure I've got this up a little bit more. You can hear some of that noise already coming in. Just a really demonstration of the resonance in this patch and how authentically analog it sounds. Wow, just so incredible. And we get this wonderful dirty noise in there that I put in there deliberately to sort of give you the vibe of a Juno chorus, because I'm using the time module here to actually simulate a chorus. So if you haven't checked out my initial review, I kind of show how to do that. So let's keep going here. Yeah, the filter's incredible, Keith. It's incredible. And shout outs to Mark, by the way, who told me about that UK album when we were checking out the SY99. Rusted Strike, this is a really kind of fun, I love doing like some metallic EBM type stuff. So very different sort of characteristic there. Yes, there is, Keith, and we're going to get into that. Mixmaster, welcome. Welcome, everybody. first thing you should hear is, compared to every other software synthesizer ever, how clean the modulation is when you do audio rate. That's really the secret of this plugin. They've done some sort of DSP wizardry to get around the physics of this, and it's just incredible. The next one, Fog World, kind of like a tribute. If Midwich Music is here right now, this is for you, bro. So what we're listening to there is using all three oscillators to actually get that sound, that seventh chord sound. Really beautiful. You can see we're using all of this. And if you ever need to know what's going on in a patch, you can open up this modulation page. And you can see I've got a pretty good amount of modulation in this one. We'll dig into everything, guys, I promise. But it's kind of fun just to show off what I did. So, my throat, an open grave. So, what's super cool about this plugin in particular is the way you can modulate the amount here. So this is being controlled by LFO B. So you can see that it's freely drawable LFO, and that's modulating the mod osc amount. So if I pull the LFO out, so that means there's no filter FM, this is what it sounds like, which is cool, but it's really when you add that filter FM in, I've only heard sounds like that sound that big. And again, the filter FM from my CS70M, you know, that $20,000 synthesizer behind me. And then even some other cool synths like the Kai AX60 has this sort of feature, but it's only got one oscillator per voice. The Prophet 5 can do this with polymod. And then what else? The Matrix-12 behind me, the mighty Matrix-12, of course, can do these types of sounds too. But to hear it in a plugin and to hear it sound so good, you know. By the way, if you're curious how they make those dubstep wavetables in Serum 2, this is how they do it, right? This is it. This is Gforce MAP. So this is a brand new plugin Mixmaster. It came out on Tuesday, and these are the patches I made for it. So you get these free if you get MAP. Links in the description. This one Spark Among the Embers. It's sound I make on my CS70M all the time using the ring modulator and the high pass filter. You guys have heard it before. Shout outs if you know the song I'm referencing with the title of this preset. Yes, it could, Damien. So actually, a lot of people don't realize how the Prophet 5 is one of the most, for the time it came out, one of the most progressive, forward-thinking synthesizers, where with that polymod section where you can kind of route anything to anyone. Crystal Love, that's it. Again, just how clean everything sounds about this. There's no breakup. It doesn't alias. It's wild that they were able to pull this off. This preset, Dubstation 2, sort of a follow-on from my Halogen FM preset, Dubstation Hero. goes like more out of tune, but if you're in this area, just a giant space, right? But up here, it starts losing it a little bit. And then down here, really interesting how it handles the FM there, right? So not surprising I'm using frequency modulation. So once again, the fact that the FM is controlled by this mod oscillator as opposed to typical like modulator carrier type relationship, the mod oscillator is your modulator, and it can do it. So it's basically like a 3-op FM, but that's not really what this plugin's about, but you do have that option. And if you look at the wave shape of Seinfeld here, you can see that there's already FM built in to the sine wave based on the wave shape. So royalty check is coming, baby. And so something I didn't even cover in my previous video is how everything on this plugin has XY pads. So the oscillators have XY pads. To do whatever you're interested in. This is so much more than another soft synth mix master. And then the filter too. To do all sorts of stuff depending on the patch, you know, and we're going to dive into all of the effects and everything. I love that this plugin is not cluttered and that the effects are also characterful, because we've all seen those plugins that, you know, they just basically are like a kitchen sink plugin, and that's cool. Of course, I have my favorite one. You guys all know that. But I love that this one takes you down a certain avenue. Forlorn of Avantis, this was the first preset I actually made, just testing it out. The bass is incredible, and you can see I'm using filter A here to give a little bass boost, just to pull out a little bit. And again, the thing I always say about software and digital hardware synths is it's not that they can't sound good. It's that they really struggle in the filter section. Filters are just difficult to emulate. I don't think in theory you can't do it perfectly, but in practice, a lot of the companies cut corners. That's the only way I can say it, unfortunately, is a lot of them really do cut corners when it comes to modeling the filters. And Gforce does not. They have the best filters in the game. It's so good. We probably at some point will have to have a rubric for legendary plugins. I used a variant of the legendary synthesizer test for the Omnisphere videos, just because it was like the only way I could think of how to even talk about Omnisphere. And this plugin, if we were to use the current legendary synth test, it would pull off something that virtually no synthesizer can do easily. And that is the training day test and the Deep Space Nine test. So if you're familiar with the lore of this video series, or whatever you want to call it, it's very hard for synths to both be easy enough for a beginner to use and deep enough that advanced sound designers will keep finding things. And I think this is the best example of a synthesizer that does that, because, you know, you can initialize the preset and use this thing pretty much like a mini Moog, right? 3 oscillators, filter, forget about filter A, envelopes, LFO, turn on a preset for the delay or whatever, and you're good to go. I definitely would love to check out Full Bucket, and I'd love to check out Rolly Cypher 2 and Strobe 2 for sure. I'd love to have a a Rolly Seaboard at some point on this channel. This is fully MPE capable too, by the way. So I saw in the Sonic State podcast, Rich Hilton, I believe, I'm sorry if I got his name wrong, but he had a Seaboard and was talking about how well this integrates with that. So Sticker Bush Serenade. This is using the generative ARP down here. So this is so I'm going to turn it just to regular ARP so we can remember what that's like, right? And you can hear that probably decay of one of the decays is being modulated by an LFO or something is what it sounds like. What is it? Envelope A decay is being modulated by an LFO. But now if we go to generative ARP, this is where we start going into almost like a Eurorack sort of world where we're getting different results than what we started with. So now we're getting different results every time. And we can actually hit this little button here and we can move around with this. We can change the amount of evolution going on. We can even set this to a scale. So for instance, I like to play in C natural minor quite a bit, probably to the annoyance of some of my viewers. So it just sort of was the type of sound I could see David Wise using in like a factory level of a video game or something like that. It's kind of like an industrial edge, organic, but still very beautiful, I think anyways. View from Callisto. This is sort of my emulation of a Juno 6, right? Just a classic poly sound from the 80s. And I'm not even using the reverb at all. Just a little bit of color here to give it some vintage feel. Just gorgeous. Very welcome. So just a beautiful sound. And again, that's what Gforce has as an ace up their sleeve compared to all the other developers, is they can make plugins that sound really vintage. But this approach with West Coast style synthesis, wave shaping, basically can send anything anywhere inside of it. That takes it also very modern too. Do I have any more? Yes, I've got Airlon Falls. So this is my favorite preset. This one is really using the Filter FM to the fullest potential, if it's the one I'm remembering. Just... Go ahead and try to make that sound with any other plugin in the world. Any digital synth, I do not care. It will not sound as good. The only thing that will come close is a real analog synthesizer. And there's plenty of analog synthesizers that don't do Filter FM as well as this plugin. So... Go ahead, Gforce. I mean, so here's the thing. I am so upset with the horrible coincidence that this plugin came out exactly a week after Omnisphere 3, because it's so difficult for me to, I think I've like reviewed one other plugin this year, right? And then the two best plugins of all time, in my opinion, came out a week apart from each other. So it's just so hard to talk about Omnisphere 1 week. And then what's interesting is, guess what? As complete as Omnisphere might feel, it doesn't have filter FM, right? It can't do these types of sounds. And so even though I just talked to everybody and said how great Omnisphere 3 is, and I do believe that, this for me is for like the real synth nerds. Can I get some scum snobs in the chat? Cheers, guys. This is the plugin that really lets you dig in. And you'll notice we didn't have to, there's no menu diving. The closest thing we have is this like modulation menu pops up just so you can see what's going on. And Sari, I'm really glad you mentioned the UI, because a lot of people, some people were like, ugh, I don't like the UI, which I like the UI, but I just want to point out here that there is a light mode. So if you want a different kind of look to it, a little bit more pigments-y for those people. For me, I'm too goth. It's like hurting my eyes. But there is another UI for this in case. Oh yeah, and Unify 2 came out. So it's just been a crazy couple of weeks when the rest of the year's been pretty tame, right? So, and again, we're going to dive into how to make sounds like this, but I just want to go over most of them. Blood Money and Gin. This is like, I usually try to go for a patch that's somewhat inspired by digital native dance on any synthesizer I program. So this is, you can see this LFO movement. You'll hear what it sounds like with that's routed to PWM, I think. So again, that's a lot happening with just a few oscillators. So I want to pick this apart real quick. So we have, if we go into the modulation here, we can see the filters being modulated by envelope B. Oscillator B's wave shape is being modulated. So that's the PWM oscillator here. So if I turn that down, you should be able to, I think that'll be enough for us to be able to hear all of these other sounds that are actually going on aside from just that one synth layer. So that was a single oscillator synth part you were hearing basically with PWM. And then all of the interesting stuff is coming from the noise oscillators and the other oscillators. Yes, Rob. So if I had a XY pad, like a Chaos pad, or even I think some of the Korg, like the smaller ones have XY pads on them, that would be a great way to interact with it. For me, I guess I could map one of the two to my sliders over here, but I don't know. It's cool. By the way, thank you, Damien. I try to spend a lot of time on the names for presets because I'm so tired of seeing presets that are like Moog Lead 2, you know. And I think that's it. I didn't make Follow Me to the maybe I did make, I guess I did make Follow Me to the Cosmos. So this is kind of like a if we go in the modulation here, what's controlling that? Interesting. So the color of the crossover frequency is being modulated by LFOB. Yeah. So what that is, I remember now. So we've got this crossover here, and I'm actually if I guess I could disable that real quick here. I'm actually using the crossover to create a phaser. Do you hear that sound? Sorry, Sari says, is this pure synth or it also has samples? It has 0 samples. Well, some of the noises are samples, so maybe that counts. For instance, like we have, then we go to droplets here, and you can just hear. So that's a, this for me is like that, but that's it as far as samples go. And so, you know, I always try to do an E-piano. That's water now. I did a lot of init patches for sure. Ganymede Whim chimes. The envelopes are loopable. So that's what we're hearing there. You can hear this looping envelope, and you can see I have 2 similar ones, but separate decay times. And if I had to guess, they're key tracked. You could probably find that in here. Yes, they're being negatively key tracked actually. So, and that way, whenever you play, and again, just a huge space, right? Heard My Name in the Noise, also a very kind of Silent Hilly sort of noise E-piano. And Sarah, you know, what's interesting is all of the synthesis types in this plugin are still kind of analog synth, but more West Coast and East Coast together, you know? So we're not getting into physical modeling or additive or any of the digital stuff. It's all based still more or less on, you know, sound sources you could have started with in 1979 or something like that. You know, you really could, with some way to sample the ocean, right? You could use triangle waves and wave folders and FM and all of that in a modular synth and create the same patch. It just wouldn't be polyphonic, basically. I always go for a flute sound. Go up here. The great Jamie Morden did that flute sound in the intro. He has me beat. Same type of sound, though. His is better. Messiah, another one I always go for. Esteban, welcome. How's it going? I need to finish off this. So can I get a scum cheers in the chat? I'm really excited, guys. This is something I've been so excited to show you guys for so long. This is my favorite Gforce plugin by far. So we're almost through my factory presets. This is another David Wise inspired preset. I know, gosh. This one is the type of thing that you hear in like forest interlude or aquatic ambiance, that type of thing, where you have these like really fast arpeggios. Love those types of sounds, little glittery things. So this one, Moon Glitter. West Coast generally refers to the difference between Robert Moog and Don Buchla basically invented synthesis at the same time, for lack of a better way of saying it. Buchla was probably a little first, but then Moog really made it a thing as far as figuring out how to make an instrument to sell to musicians, as opposed to it being sort of more of like a laboratory, like science-y type thing. And because Buchla was in California and Moog was on the East Coast, they went about it different ways. So Moog was much more what we call subtractive synthesis, where you get a lot of harmonically rich oscillators and then, filter it out with lopers and things. And then Buchla had a much more esoteric way of going about it. You have things like low pass gates with vectorals in them. I want to say that's what they're called. And which is like a clay based component. I think Dubstation was telling me once a couple of years ago. And it was a much more like, for instance, the concept of wave folding, where you take a triangle wave and you fold it, basically distort it to create harmonics. So it's the sort of the opposite idea. It's like starting with a simpler wave and making it more complex with modulation. So it's the very shortest version of this I could give. It's a long thing. Starscream, another bass line. And again, the without any filter FM, it sounds like this. Which is cool, right? I'm using color here to add some bit crushing. If I turn that off, you can still hear there's some interesting modulation going on. But when we increase filter FM, that's what gives it that really cool sound. That's so cool, Derek. And let's see here. I think this is my last preset, Unexplored Worlds. Shout outs to like the 4 people who know what that's a reference to. So I don't usually go for these big types of virtual analog-y type sounds, but it just sounds so freaking good on this plugin. So, you know, here it is. Can I get some Scum 6 in the chat? It's like basically how a Jupiter 8000 should sound if it was up to me. Just massive and sick. So if you guys have any questions, I encourage, like, now through the end of the stream is the perfect time to ask. And I'm going to try to keep up with the chat, but sometimes I miss a comment because I'm going kind of back and forth trying to pay attention. Can I get some scum cheers in the chat? Keith, it is a ridiculous plugin. It is so much better than I think 90% of people realize from just looking at, like, even my review is just such a cursory glance at it. So I was really, if there's a single plugin that deserves a full live stream to really like dive into, this is it. Because it's so hard to get across. Whereas like Omnisphere, you sort of understand what it is from their videos and stuff. So we're going to start with just our saw pulse here. Wave shape. We have that control. Why don't we do something more West Coast? So wave shaping would basically be like creating a distortion which turns this triangle wave into a more complex oscillator. So why don't we get a second triangle wave here? We'll bring it up an octave. I don't know why it was so hard for me to say that. And these oscillators start off really tight. So what we'll do is we'll just insert tightness joke there. And we'll try to give it like a little detune. Rob, it's actually not. It's taking up like approximately half of my screen, but I have it actually a little bit smaller than I did in the video review because I didn't want to cut off the diffusion and stuff here. So you can't see the mix knob for space, but otherwise you could see everything in the plugin. Some people were like, your Prophet 12 is in the way. And I was like, yeah, that's true. So let's take these wave shapes and let's modulate them with an LFO. So here's how modulation works. And I touched it in my video too, but we'll go through it. So we can modulate anything with our 3 envelopes, which can be loopable and all sorts of stuff, 3 LFOs, which can be drawn, noise, which isn't like a noise oscillator, or it can be, but it's really a sample and hold circuit of whatever noise source we use. So for instance, that could be the ocean or wind or something else as a noise source. Mod wheel velocity, aftertouch, key tracking, and it's fully MPE supporting. So I'm not using an MPE controller, but I did use one to actually make some of my presets. So it could do poly aftertouch. It could even do other stuff. So really cool. Let's do an envelope for 1 for fun. And so we'll turn that all the way up and go to envelope B here, and we can control that. So now we've created some interesting sound there. With oscillator B, I'm going to use an LFO for fun, right? And we can draw this, and we even have presets here. So for instance, if I go with like 4 saw here, there we go. That's how we could get that. We could get all sorts of interesting sounds. If we want, we can have that so it resets every time. We can sync this if we wanted. I like it without it, but we could, for instance. So now it's, maybe we'll leave it in, and we'll leave it at like, what would it be, 2? So when we play, right, we're starting to get that sort of a sound. Now, if we have both at once, we've got some really interesting stuff going on. Now, we can also control the shape mod here is sending the mod oscillator. So if you imagine a modular synthesizer, right, which I am not a Eurorack guy, so forgive me, Eurorack gods out there, if I get something here wrong. But imagine you take a VCO, and instead of routing it to your mixer, you route it to control the wave shape of your oscillator, right? That's what shape mod is. And let me see what Keith says. Does this do full-on noodles, self-playing patches? That's interesting. I haven't really thought about it. I think to do that, you'd have to have the envelope all the way up, you know, sort of to create like a drone, which I don't know if it does. Now, if you can count holding down 1 key, maybe, but I don't think we can trigger the oscillators, right? That's like a thing you could do with like a real Buchla synthesizer. You can trigger these, but maybe you could. I don't know. Well, I don't think so, but I could be wrong. So we could just use the mod oscillator. Right, as an oscillator itself. But what's much more interesting is to use it to modulate other things. So if I control the shape mod here, you can hear that we're starting to get some more so you could get some really curious stuff, and this has its own shapes too. Depending on what we want to do. For me, it can be useful. Now, it can be key tracked, it can be free running. more like a ring modulator or as an LFO. Sari, it's not going to sound like a Prophet VS, but for a $50 synthesizer or whatever, I guess it's $119 now. You know, it is what it is. But I like creating these more interesting, complex tones here. And then we could blend in some wind. Which sounds really harsh, which is why we need to bring the filter in. So to show off what can be done here, why don't we put these into parallel as opposed to serial? And we're going to turn filter B off. I'm going to make this a low pass filter. So what we can do now is modulate this peak, the frequency here, with an envelope, right? So it's the same way. And then filter B is a separate filter. In this case, why don't we go with like a longer, I'm going to try to like double the release, the time it takes. And we'll just go for something like that. And we'll use envelope C for this. Filter. We're just getting started. So that's one peak. What if we want like a low peak to go up? So what we're going to do is take this and negatively modulate it with envelope C. So as envelope C brings the filter down, it should bring this one up. So we're going to select that frequency here and then bring this down. Results with an LFO, right? So we have a regular LFO. There we go. We have to open that up a little bit. And again, why don't we pick a more interesting LFO shape? So we've got ramp up, but why don't we go with whatever throb is. So we have a lot of movement going on right now, and the secret to this plugin is how clean it all is, because if you've ever tried to do this type of stuff with another plugin, the problem is a lot of the times the high end starts to become noise because the plugin just can't handle all of the modulation at once, and you sort of get this like not so pleasant. We can take the noise off just to really. So now we've created a very interesting sound that's completely different than what most people are used to from a plugin, right? I'm not saying it's the greatest sound in the world, but I think it's pretty cool. Let's take this mod oscillator and route it to filter FM. just love that it's so beautiful without being harsh, you know? We could pull a little out of 2K here. And then we could go to pan spread here, and we could go to random. I love cranking this up, sometimes all the way, but let's like do 75%. So this just opens the stereo spectrum. How's it going, Sean Johnson? So one of the things too, we can control the gain here. If we ever feel like it's clipping internally, maybe we'll pull this back a little. And then we have our effects and things. So for me, on this sound, I think we can probably get away with a big reverb. So let's turn space on. And I'm going to turn the release all the way down just for this so we can go and hear that granular reverb, right? Because right now it's basically just a granular effect. It's not reverbing at all. We have a direction for the swirl. And I'm not going to pretend that I know exactly how all of this works, but we do get different sounds out of it, though. Let's increase diffusion, though. Really interesting. So one of the things is obviously Omnisphere is great at doing ambient stuff, but I think if you're into this granular reverb thing, which I don't believe is an effect in Omnisphere right now, Mixmaster says, I find it hilarious that you are the way you can get these crazy, like, because we're on size 25 right now. If I increase feedback, size, and grains, like, it gets so big. Slow the attack down and just so really ridiculously big sounds here. Edio, but let's just check out like swirling, for instance. Just Pyro, welcome. So we could go that way as far as the sounds. This is it without. Really dirty, but still beautiful in my opinion. You know, it's not. It's dirty, but in kind of a calming sort of way. Let's go check out the time. So one thing that what I didn't have time to get across is this can be like multi-tap. So again, I'll turn the attack and release down here so we can just kind of hear it. But kind of what you'd expect, right? If we pan this left and right, you'll sort of hear a kind of a ping-ponging thing. We've got individual feedback controls and a low pass and high pass filter for everything. Right, but we can also put it in loop mode. So now what's going on is it's going to work more like a feedback loop. And we have a global feedback control. So it, I guess in a way it's more like a tape echo if you're familiar with like a space echo or something like that, where it goes through This would be 4 heads. I want to say most of the tape echoes. My RE501 chorus echo has 3 heads, so this would be like 1 extra one. But if we crank feedback, it keeps going, right? It keeps living its best life. And just like a tape echo, you know, it's pitchy. Let's clear that and then bring it back. And if you want it to sound like a tape echo, you need to bring the high end out. I want to get an Echoplex so bad. That's one of those, just ever since I found out that it was used on Alien. And all of these could be tempo synced if you wanted. And I showed in my review that you can modulate these times too. So if you want to get some pretty crazy shit going on, that's a way you could do it as well. And then a combination of both of these can then be pretty massive. Right. So, hopefully they convince someone out there that this is much more than this plugin seems like at first blush. If anybody's interested in a type of sound or has a question about what I can do or what you can do really with this plugin, please go ahead and shout it out. In the meantime, I'm going to do what I call like the Dub Station Zero test, which is where I try to get a really badass, you know, just goddamn bass line out of this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and put it into mono mode here, but we also have legato if we want. And we can, just to save CPU, we can actually bring the voice count down if we want. And let's go check out some of the other waves. Saw pulse would be good. Sine fold could be cool. PWM, sine saw. I think I'm going to go with pulse saw. So this one is essentially when you have both a sawtooth wave and a pulse width modified square wave going through. Legato curves, that's an interesting question. So if we go into the curve section, we have a mod wheel curve, a velocity curve, an aftertouch, and a key tracking control here. But not a legato curve, unless you mean portamento, where you can control the... I appear to have disappeared for a second. I should be back. Let me know if I'm back on, if someone can just comment something. And so what we'll do is we'll set both of these to pulse saw here. Can you assign modulation to the duty cycles of the oscillator shapes? Meaning pulse width modulation, my friend, or something else? I'm going to use 2 separate LFOs for this so we could set 2 separate rates. So I'm going to go for like 50-ish and like 0.3 hertz on the second one. Good. I'm glad I'm still here. So, plenty of beef with no detune. And it's pretty nice, right? So let's bring the filter down. We can modulate this with key tracking. And let's use envelope B. And we're going to make the curve by bringing the decay release curve to the left here. We make it more analog. You're getting that incredible heritage, right? You can tell that these guys have spent some time modeling analog synths. So that's pretty cool. Little less high end, right? We could crank the resonance. Really sounds great. But again, let's use filter FM. So a good amount of resonance and a good amount of filter FM. Don't need too much, actually. Just a bit, but when we control this mod oscillator and change the frequency, when we go up all of those steps, that's where we start to get these really weird talking filter sounds. So why don't we use another envelope? Let's use envelope C. And we'll slow this down a little. How Cybertron is that sound? We have control with the resonance there if we want it really like a throaty talking synth. We could crank the resonance, but we could also just bring it. Just a little is nice. Why don't we change the filter? And I like that we can blend between a bandpass filter here and a low pass. Because if you think about it, that means you can get kind of like ladder filter type tones right around here. So that's fucking killer, right? But we kind of have a problem, which is it's like so aggressive in the high end, right? So instead of routing filter A into filter B, why don't we route filter B into filter A and then just bring out, we can just turn this low pass on and bring this down. can make it sound really fat and huge. Let's check out color now, because this is where it could get interesting. So we didn't really get a chance in my previous video to check this out. So if I just increase it, everything down, you'll notice it already sounds different, right? And that's because we have this crossover here, which is at that crossover point, we're getting phase cancellation. So we could actually add, just if we wanted to use this as an additional notch filter for some phase type sounds, we could just modulate this with another LFO. So let's bring it down to 20 hertz. So we're not really hearing too much. And then what we can do is check out what the effects do. So we got dust first. Pretty obvious, right? Now, if I turn dust before, we're not going to hear anything because this is our sort of our pre-section and we filtered it out. But if I bring it up, you can hear this is basically that vinyl sort of texture being fed into a low pass filter. And this is modulatable too, by the way. So if we want to modulate this with an LFO or an envelope or even our sample and hold noise circuit, we can do so. But that's there. Now we have crisp. Which is like a bit crush effect. And we could do that below too. That sounds so sick. I mean, it's like way over the top, but we could mix it out and just use a little. Again, if we want to just get like apocalyptic as fuck with it. And then pressure is essentially like a compressor. It might be multiband. It might just be a compressor on whatever we're hearing on the crossover. What's interesting about it is the volume compensation is strong enough that in general it pulls that level back there. Versus I guess it is pulling it forward. But what's interesting is if we pick something more in the middle here, if we put it right around 300, and we put pressure on both sides, that's how we could get these really reecy, like drum and bass a lot of times cuts 300, maybe 400 pretty hard. You can hear like an amen break over the top of that. That type of sound, right? And then it gets just more interesting when you right, it's adding a lot more low end. Oh, that's pretty crazy because I guess the dust is being fed into the pressure. It doesn't take much to give it that, you know. Versus sounds good, but this is even thicker. that's really nice down there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to modulate this. Have I used envelope C yet? Yes, I did. Let's try with envelope B. Let's try that. Let's see. Okay. Okay, we're getting there. Let's, I turned unison on, right? Let's take pan spread to alt. We only need 2 voices, and we can spread it all the way out, or to 90. And then let's increase the detune, of course. 10% is fine. I almost always realize once I've done a sound that we can take it even a little bit darker than, you know, when you make a preset and you're listening to it on its own, it is kind of angel spit, right? Yeah, that one's pretty good, so I'm gonna go ahead and save that one. Pretty big, you know, and of course, if you want to make it more open up more, you just increase this envelope. Why don't we make this even crazier, right? So let's set it at a high value. Was only possible with VLSI on hardware. Sorry, explain that to me, MIDI Alchemy. I don't know that word. Well, let's take the depth of envelope B here, bring it down, and then modulate this with our third LFO, right? Make it nice and slow, grab the depth, and then modulate this with an LFO. We could even tempo sync this, so it's just 1-1, you know? Adding a little key tracking there. We do need just a little delay, don't we? So I'm going to just turn the level down on most of these and just set it to like, maybe I'll do 100 and 300. So this would be like a setting I would do on my tape echo, right? You need very little just to give it a little bit of, oh, we don't even need that much feedback. Give it just a slight amount of attack here. I would love to have a coupon code, but I mean, I think that 50% off intro sale is pretty incredible. $65. People are saying Crystal Vision, $60, whatever it is. There's nothing like this. MIDI Alchemy says how hardware synths need the large-scale integrated chips, the bespoke ones, like in the Andromeda. Right. That's the thing, is you pretty much need an analog circuit to be able to get these types of sounds, I think. Now, of course, I'm playing kind of like dark industrially type stuff because that's how I am, but you could also do like... And then it's very cute, right? So I'm going to go ahead and save this one. We're going to call this one, what are we going to call this? What do we think here? What should we call this one? We should call this one, let's call it Angel Spittle, because it's definitely in that neighborhood. Vulture Culture, and we'll call this one free for members of the channel, and I'll post it down below. It's a bass. It's not really most of these things. Mono, little percussive, pluck, short, unison, wide, warm, resonant, little hollow, electric, detuned, deep, dirty, maybe not electric, dark. Yeah, looks good. So we're going to save that. There we go. Close that. And then we can initialize. So does anybody have a viewer request, something that you guys would like to check out? Type of sound to do. In the meantime, I need to hydrate. So can I get a scum cheers for everybody who makes this channel the coolest place to be every Wednesday night? I'm so grateful to you guys. The community here is unparalleled in the SynthTube world. I don't care what anybody says. I believe I have the greatest community surrounding me. I'm really just here to have you guys who make this channel what it is. The Karmic called it first. Cheers, guys. A pad. So I don't always follow my own advice, but one thing that I like to do when it comes to sound design is a lot of times you should start with your most powerful tool. What's your most powerful tool? The filter. Wrong. Just kidding. It's the amplifier. Volume is the biggest thing. Mixmaster says the multi-poly rush sound. Are you talking about a Tom Sawyer type thing? I think that should be pretty attainable. So DeKarmic was first. We'll tackle him first. So sustain all the way up. Decay doesn't matter. Attack. Let's slow it down. And then I like to go like double release. We'll do like equal release to the attack today. I mean, that's not a terrible pad right there. Let's get a more interesting, let's go for the sine fold on both of these guys. Now I'm guilty of I like pairing up my oscillators, right? And what we'll do is we'll take envelope B, bring the sustain. Now, what I've found is if you bring the sustain to infinity, the release acts differently. So you want kind of just shy of infinity. Negative 43 is close enough. Let's set this to 2 seconds and decay to 4 seconds and release to 2 seconds, something like that. So you can see what we're doing here. And now we're going to use envelope B to modulate the wave shapes, right? So this is what this sounds like if I just do this real quick. Turn the volume down. So this is like this glassy FM-y type thing. I think we can slow it down even further. Let's go for like 4 seconds each way. I think that's sufficient. Cool enough, right? Let's modulate shape mod with envelope B2, right? So now we're not just modulating the shape here to get more FM glassy type, Yamaha SY77 type tones out of it, but we're also going to be modulating, increasing the amount that this mod oscillator is routed. Now I'm also guilty of just using the sine wave. It works for these types of sounds, but you could go harsher with something like a pulse wave or something. Depending on what frequency we pick, we get different overtones, right? No aliasing. Let's go even higher. Let's see what we get. Let's see if we can make this thing alias. I'm not surprised at all that it's not. We need to increase the decay time here, maybe even to like 8 seconds, something like that, something really big. So this is maybe more than DeKarmic asked for. We'll go with 6 seconds. Now I'm deliberately taking it too far. I'm deliberately taking it kind of into over bright, over glassy, to check to see if it aliases, which I can't get it to alias right now. If you're hearing anything that sounds like aliasing, that's YouTube compression, which is a real thing, but I can guarantee you my mastering engineers, by the way, I have a #1 record on the Deutsch alternative charts in Germany right now. Aller's Retour. Let's see if I have the actual album. I had it right over here. Oh, I think I put it away. Damn it. But Appuie la Nuit, incredible French synth pop band, currently #1 on the Deutsch alternative charts, mixed and mastered by myself. Very proud of them. I should spell that out for everybody who's English. APRES space la space NUIT. Appuie la Nuit. Like that, and just really awesome synth pop stuff. #1 currently. The Deutsch alternative charts for synth pop, goth, industrial type stuff is the biggest chart in the world, so super cool. Anyways, my mastering engineer ears hear no aliasing. Someone in the comments will say it's aliasing. It happens every time. So that's beautiful. Now what we could do is detune this oscillator a bit. Now what that'll do is add some really interesting movement into the sound. Maybe too much? Yeah, too much. Actually, it was kind of cool. Very touchy, isn't it? A trick to borrow from my favorite synthesizer, the Chroma Polaris, is to negatively key track this. So what we could do is we can increase it a bit, but bring the key tracking down. Whoa. I don't know. That might be too much. It's intense. It's very intense. So maybe just... I think what we need to do is control the shape mod here and just bring it down a little, because with that additional movement, it's just... Can you have delay slowly ramp in? Sure, I could control the level with another envelope. I want to get this kind of dialed in where I want it, though, because right now it's just a little extreme. Let's put envelope all the way back up. That didn't really change much. It's just the tuning is crazy. Crystal Love loves it, right? Real harsh. For me to be able to play some notes... I think 10 is fine. Another way we could do it, we could modulate it with envelope B. We're not going to probably need much. Let's see how that sounds. It's so intense. Like, we need so very little there. If you open it up and we go to, let's see, the fine tuning here, we modulate that, we can get really small values. Let's try something. If I hold shift to get something like 1%. Let's see how that sounds. Just a little much. Let's bring it to like... Let's try 0.7. Just a little. 0.5. We're going for 0.5. This should do it. That's pretty crazy. Isn't that gorgeous? And we are not using any filters, right? Nothing at all. Pretty wild sound. And so that modulating the fine tune of the modulator in this FM synth chain, basically, what that's doing is the same thing you would expect on like an FM synthesizer, where it's adding that almost detune like sound. There's no detune in the sound, right? We could do that. Oh, didn't mean to do that though. We could detune it. I don't think we need to. I think it sounds gorgeous. We could try amplitude modulation, right? It sounds already so complex we don't need it. So how many envelopes have we used? We haven't used this one yet. So now let's bring filter B in. Let's put it in 2-pole mode, right? Or if it's in 4-pole now. Yeah, 4-pole might work. Let's key track it a bit. And then we're going to modulate it with envelope C. And so B is, let's go for halves. So instead of 4 seconds and 6 seconds, let's go for 2 and 3. So we'll go 2 seconds here and 3 seconds here. And then a long release of 2 seconds. I don't know. That's awesome, Rob. So now this is just helping us get this sound a little bit more under control. We need to bring the sustain all the way down to almost infinite. We can slow the decay down. Doesn't need to go that far. I want it even longer. It's okay. Nothing wrong with long. Wow. That's so awesome, Rob, that you got halogen, icon drum, and map, because my experience with the Gforce guys is they're really cool, nice human beings, actually, you know, and that's something to be said for in this industry. I really haven't had a bad experience with anybody in the industry, but there's a couple of, you guys could probably read between the lines with some of the companies that I'm going to not finish that sentence. How about that? I love Gforce. Let's just stay there. We could turn these oscillators down for fun and pick a noise source that's going to work with this. Do we want the ocean? I like the ocean. We have a speed control, so if we want to like change this, which could be useful for certain kinds of effects, right? Do we want droplets? Excuse me. In the chat, first person gets it. Droplets or the ocean. Tape is great too. I use tape a bit in my patches because it's just a kind of like a better white noise. That could be beautiful too. And then the 1 bit. I'm going to go waves. Just Crystal Visions went oceans. Ocean it is. Just to give it a little bit of that. I'm going to bring the noise down even further. -12 is like half the volume of that. I just want it barely in there. Not that I'm aware of, Keith. And then we can modulate this with the noise LFO. So I'll crank the resonance all the way. That's, if you hear it sounding weird, it's just because it's clipping my thing here. So if I increase the slew rate from very soft to very hard, we should be able to create sample and hold here with the noise source. So maybe 5. So I'm just doing a little of that just so that we could kind of add a little movement in. And so now when we finish this pad, we can actually get some motion in there, right? So if we're holding down the sustain, we actually have something. I hate it when a sound just sort of dies at some point, you know, like there's just nothing left that the sound's doing. How freaking beautiful is that, right? Pan spread, random. I prefer random, so this will just open it up. Oh, it's gorgeous. And there's no resonance at all. With some filter FM. I don't know. I think it sounds great both ways. I don't think I kind of like it warmer. It's like it's like how the DX7 should sound. No effects at all. So let's turn time on, turn the levels all the way up for all of these. And now what we can do is we can tempo sync these, because I think for this one, so we'll start with an 8th D, and the fourth D, and a 2. And we'll kind of go left and right with those and see what we get, how big this is. DeCarmick asks, does this support MPE? Yes, it does. It is fully supporting it. All I have to do is go to this little cog and then put MPE mode on. Now, this is not an MPE synth, so it doesn't make sense for this stream. But I did program some of my sounds with an MPE controller. So, and I'm using Windows, Keith. Reaper, too, in case anybody's curious. Let's just bring the low pass filter down to like 2K, about. Right? That sounds pretty good. We could demud it by bringing this up to about 500 too, if we wanted. So if we don't want the delays to add any mud to the sound. In this case, we'll go for it. But we don't have to, really. Let's go to space. I'm going to turn time off for now. And I really like the 50-50 preset. I just think it sounds pretty much perfect. I feel like when they designed this, they made it work so that if you set 50% values to everything, it's like the perfect reverb. Just beautiful. It's like you still hear how granular it is, but you also hear that it feels like a reverb. Whereas if we turn diffusion off, then it's really granular. Which actually doesn't sound terrible in this version, right? Because it's a cool kind of FME, DX7E. You know, you could go either way with it. Let me see. So I remember do the Tom Sawyer bass sound or whatever. Does anybody else have any requests before I jump in on that one too? Because that'll be pretty fast. All right, so I'm going to bring this down 12 to -12 and turn the time on, because you won't really need a lot of effects when you've got a synth that sounds this good. Let's just make this like a big low end boost, like around 100 or so. We'll just go up by like 3. If we want a smoother sound, we could just use less of this envelope here. The cat sound. All you need is a Moog ladder filter for that. Okay. We'll call this one Shatter Dreams. Vulture Culture. Hey, that's me. How the DX7 shoulda sounded. And again, all of these presets will be for free for you guys, members of the channel, that is. It's a pad. Evolving. FM. Long release. Polyphonic. Sweep. It's more of a swell, unison, wide. Warm, thin. It's always fun when you have like antonyms. It's thinner. Resonant. Even though it has no resonance, it sounds resonant. Nostalgic. Metallic, hollow, electric. Bright. Dirty? Yeah, I think that's about right. Save that as well. Shatter Dreams. Okay. Init patch. Always playing a game of volume here. All right, bring the filter down. 4-pole filter. And we're going to make kind of like a ladder filter. And then... That's our cat sound. Maybe control the frequency here with a little bit of envelope B as well. It's a cat. So that's how you make a cat sound. Tom Sawyer. Now, I want to say that the original sound just uses sawtooth waves. So we could make it really awesome with PWM, right? That feels like cheating. So instead, we'll do saw shaper. So this is cool. This is like a wave shape saw. That feels like cheating too. That's so cool. So we'll just use sawtooth waves. Or I guess square saws. So if you're familiar with an Oberheim OBX, there's not going to be any key tracking on it. We're going to turn the filter pretty low and the envelope pretty high, right? And sustain all the way down, almost all the way down. It's one little thing about this plugin. Some release, but long decay time. It's I don't think there's any hard sync. I mean, I don't have a multi-poly, so I don't know how they made it for that, but my understanding is that the first preset or whatever preset it is on the multi-poly is like a Tom Sawyer Rush sound, right? So, crank the resonance. Probably envelope B doesn't need to be as high. And then it was an 8-voice unison stack. So we're going to put in a mono mode, unison on, pan alternate, spread all the way, 8 voice detune. If we wanted to take it a little mod FM, it's going to sound more like an OBX. This shouldn't surprise anybody that this can sound like an OBX, because Gforce are the only people who are endorsed by Tom Oberheim himself to make Oberheim plugins. But you can hear how that sounds like Oberheim OBX. In fact, if we make a little bit more of a cat noise, a little ladder filter, see like 0.85, so we're almost at like a bandpass is at like 75%. It's almost a bandpass. We could hard sync this by hitting these buttons here. Let's see if this works. So we can control the frequency here with envelope B, and you know, if that's gets it closer. It's pretty there. We can increase filter FM even further if we wanted to be insane. I forgot to detune the oscillator. Sorry, guys. So let's detune them, not very far, by like 10 cents. But to create oscillator drift, we'll just go to LFO A, and this one will go LFO B, and we'll set different rates, right? Set different rates, and then, right, you know, that's kind of like whatever. We don't have a random preset, do we? It doesn't matter. We can make it random. Oh, you know what? There's even a better way to do it. We could use let's get rid of that modulation, and that modulation, we'll use the noise LFO, right? So now probably need very little of that. Yeah, 5%. Now I want a little more bass back in, so we can just go away from, you know, here's the bandpass version, which sounds good. Low pass version. Let's just bring the feedback down a little bit, just for the sake of, you know, it's a lot. Very fat. So somewhere in the middle there. To, you know, we could make the frequency here affected slightly by the noise. Pretty close. Let's bring the delay, it's even like darker. Let's scroll through the color presets. So separator was one I used a lot. Just brings everything like right up to your face. Scoop. Better for like vintagey type sounds, you know. In this case for me, not really what we're going for. So yeah, I mean, that's that. We didn't use any pulse width modulation or anything, so that could be done. Many things could be done, I think, with this one, but I'm happy to kind of stay there. I think that's a successful thing. There it is. So we're at the end of the stream, tragically. I hope I did this plugin justice. More than anything, I hope I showed how much more there is to really look at, you know? Like, there's so much going on with this plugin. I didn't cover everything. I didn't even get close to covering everything. So I would just ask people to keep that in mind as they form their opinions on this plugin, because I think some people are going to look at this and just go, why do I need another plugin? I said it in my review, but for me, this is the closest thing to a Matrix-12 you're going to get in plugin form. I know Arturia makes a Matrix-12 plugin. I'm sure it's fine. Gforce makes the best analog emulations, period. Marcus Ryle, the creator of the Matrix-12, when asked about the Arturia recreation on a private live stream, said, Gforce, he's like, look, I'm super familiar with all the quirks and things that are weird about all of the synths he worked on, all the Oberheim synths. And he's like, Gforce gets all of that stuff right. They consult with us, they nail it. Arturia is like, I hear what's not right about that. So thank you very much, Derek. Aquatic, that is what I love about this plugin, is it's got character, but it doesn't necessarily only sound vintage. You know what I mean? Like, what I like about vintage synths is that they have a character, they have a persona, they have a flavor, they have something that they do that nothing else does as well. And that's what I think about MAP. I think it does what it does the best. The reverb is not always the reverb I want to use. You know, sometimes it's just too granular, too choppy, too whatever, too bright. There isn't a, there's no control to like dampen the space, which for me is a little bit of a shame, because I wouldn't minded a little bit of like a low pass filter in there or something. They have it on, you know, basically color and time. So little thing they could add, maybe. It probably doesn't need it though, because you just turn it off and use something else. But sometimes it's the perfect reverb for you. I just think they really did some really cool stuff with this. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Does anybody have any final comments or questions they want to ask before we get out of here? Thank you very much, Mixmaster. We should have another cheers, right? Because that was a successful live stream. You guys made it all the way to the end. Thank you for listening. And thank you guys so much. Cheers, guys. Oh, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. So, I'm going to give you guys like, a little time. And if we don't get anything, then I'm going to get out of here, you know. I hope I can edit this video quickly so that I can cut out the first take that was not great. Try my best to nail them, but sometimes you get them off, you know. All right, guys. I think that's it. I think we're calling it for tonight. Thank you guys so much. Tomorrow I will have a preset playthrough of all of the best, not all of, but all of the best arpeggios, leads, and bass presets in MAP. That'll be going up on the channel tomorrow at noon Eastern, I think. And then I'm going to do one on all the keys sounds, because there's some really cool keys stuff in MAP as well. So with that in mind, continue to be excellent, guys, and I will see you next week.